Commissioner Stevens and Commissioner Munster indicated that they were not going to be here, so to the commission whenever you're ready to proceed.
We're ready to go as far as AV.
Awesome, thank you.
I have to get this mic close. I'm having a little trouble hearing from remotely, hearing what's going on at this location from my laptop. That's why I'm here. So difficult. So I'm going to have to get right to the mic here. I'm going to set a good example and keep my mask on tonight. Good evening and welcome to the April 22nd, 2021 Planning Commission meeting. And I will ask for verification of agenda posting.
Thank you, Chairperson David Huboy. The agenda was posted on Friday, April 16th, 2021 at 1:22 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you, Abraham. Commissioner Mora, would you lead us into the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Roll call, please.
Yes. Commissioner Salvador Mora.
Here.
Commissioner Jose Fernandez.
Here.
Chairperson David Huboy.
Here.
I will note that Commissioner Seth Munster and Commissioner Roxanne Stevens are have an excused absence.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Now we go on to communications from the public on items not listed on the agenda. Do we have one from the audience, virtual audience? Since there's nobody here at City Hall, is there anyone who wants to speak on any item not on the agenda?
Thank you,
Do you want to speak
Chairperson David.
first?
At this point, we do not see any hands raised for communications from the audience. Oh, actually, we do have one. We have one from Lindsay Schoolcraft. We will allow her to speak. Go ahead, Lindsay. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, thank
Good
you.
evening.
Great. So we did have a few questions actually that were submitted. So I don't know if we didn't get any confirmation around that. So I'm not sure if they're floating around somewhere if they weren't received. We did have a few clarifying questions regarding a sound wall for the property and whether or not the access point was going to be the only access point for this development.
Oh, okay, Lindsay, is this in regards to a particular project that's going to be heard for tonight?
Oh, I'm sorry. I just assumed that this was going to be the only one.
Oh, no, we do have three items for tonight. Is this for the? I'm assuming it's going to be for the farmstead project.
You're right. Yes, it is.
Okay. So we'll have that. That's going to be item number 2. We will call you on that item when we open up the public hearing. If that's okay? If that's okay with the chair.
That's perfect. Thank you.
Yes, that is okay.
Thank you.
So that would be on the agenda for item number 2.
That is correct. Thank you.
Okay. Any other speakers?
There is no raise hands at the moment, Commissioner Chairman Huboy.
All right. So we go into public hearings. Item number 1, conditional use permit 2021-5 for a planned unit development Michael Cady, the applicant, is requesting approval for the reduction of the front yard setbacks for Lot 18 and Lot 19 in the Cerro Verde subdivision, parentheses TM 2016-2, due to the formation of the cul-de-sac for Lot 18, which is addressed 1230 Robbie's Court. The applicant is requesting a reduction of the front yard setback from 18 feet to 12.20 feet for the house, and from 20 feet to 18.27 feet for the garage. For Lot 19, which address is 1220 Robbie's Court, the applicant is requesting a reduction of the front yard setback from 18 feet to 15.44 feet for the house. All other standard setbacks for the low-density residential zoning district are proposed to be met for the lots. The project site is located within the low-density residential performance overlay R1-L/PZ zoning district at 1220 and 1230 Robbie's Court, further identified as San Benito County Assessor's Parcels numbers 060-090-033 and 060-090-034. CEQA is categorically exempt.
Thank you, Chairperson Huboy. Before I introduce Eva to present this item, I just would like to say, if it's okay with you, we can proceed with item number 1, but then at some time, either between item number 1 and item number 2, or after, we have the approval of minutes. But if it's up to you, we can proceed with item number 1 and then go back to the approval of minutes.
Okay, that's what we'll do.
Okay, thank you. Thank
That's
you.
my bad on that one.
No worries. Thank you,
Sorry about
Commissioner
that.
Moorhead, for signalizing it.
Okay, so
and
Eva, your
thank you.
staff report?
Yes, thank you. Good evening, everyone. As mentioned, item number 1 is a request of approval for a conditional use permit 2021-5 for a planned unit development. And could I have the next slide, please? This request is to reduce the front yard setback requirements for Lot 18, 1230 Robbie's Court, and Lot 19, 1220 Robbie's Court in the approved and under construction Cerro Verde subdivision. And so we're looking at Lot 18, 19, we'll be pointing those on the right side of the screen. And so this is the Cerro Verde subdivision tentative map 2016-2. And the request for this CUP to amend the setbacks is due to the formation of the cul-de-sac in the subdivision and the inability to place the proposed floor plans onto the lots to meet the R1 standard setback requirements for the R1 zoning district. The tentative map 2016-2 was approved by the Planning Commission at the May 4th, 2016 Commission meeting by resolution 2016-15. And the map was extended for 1 year by resolution 2018-9 on March 22nd, 2018, and then was also extended for an additional year by resolution 2019-17 on April 11th, 2019 by the Planning Commission. The final map for this project has been approved and recorded, and construction of this project is currently underway. The approved final map is subject to the regulations of the low density R1 zoning district standards. The setbacks for R1 are from Hollister Municipal Code section 1704030. They are 18 feet to the residence, 20 feet to the garage. Side yards are 6 feet on the interior and 10-foot side yards on the corner lots. And in the rear yard, the minimum setback is 20% of the lot depth with a minimum of 15 feet and a maximum of 20 feet. Could I please have the next slide? Thank you. And just so everyone's reoriented, we're now looking with north facing up, and lot 18 and 19 are at the top of the page. The applicant is requesting a reduction for front yard setbacks for these 2 lots. Lot 18, which is in the middle there, their request is to reduce the front yard setback to 12.20 feet to the residence. So from 18 feet is the current standard. and then to reduce the front yard setback on this lot to 18.27 feet to the garage. So a reduction from 20 feet standard. And then for lot 19, so just to the left on your screen there, the request is to reduce the front yard setback from 18 feet to the residence to 15.44 feet proposed. And there will still be more than 20 feet of setback to the garage. So there's no request for reduction to the garage on lot 19. This project is located within the R1 LPZ Performance Overlay Zoning District. And the performance overlay allows for the option of having flexible standards to implement the following policies and programs for the general plan. Number one of these policies is to implement a variety of lot sizes and choices for housing types in all residential zoning districts, to create new development with interesting street patterns, site planning, and neighborhood design, to provide connections among new neighborhoods with the rest of the city for pedestrians and bicyclists, to incorporate on-site recreation pedestrian links between adjoining properties, trails or easements within the vicinity of drainages and water courses in new development, to create cluster development that meets the average general plan density for property while avoiding development in areas with environmental constraints. Another standard is a lot design and building orientation to provide solar access. And the final performance overlay design standard is to ensure that the scale and mass of new development preserves the character and scale of existing residential neighborhoods. The request for a CUP for a planned unit development has been submitted to respond to a desire to construct a single family home design, which does not currently meet the standards of the R1 zoning districts for these particular lots, in a subdivision which otherwise is in conformance with the R1 zoning district standards.
Eva, if I might jump in here for a second, we're having a little trouble, little technical difficulty with your transmission. Paul, is there anything that you recommend?
Let me
I think
try.
it was-
It's her microphone, I believe.
I think it's-
microphone?
It's
yeah.
coming in when she's speaking.
Is this microphone work better?
Yeah.
That sounds better.
That's
Okay. Put it in my hair. All right.
Thanks, Eva.
Please proceed.
So this approved tentative map was not approved concurrently with a request for a plan unit development to plan for these flexible standards in other aspects. And the remaining 17 lots in this 19 lot subdivision are larger than the required minimum lot size of 5,000 square feet within the R1 zoning district. And all lots comply with the standard setbacks and lot coverage requirements. In accordance with the standards for approval of a PUD, a plan unit development that I've described for you, the request does not constitute an increase in variety of lot sizes and housing types within the subdivision, as these floor plans and elevations are a part of the same approved master plan set, which are being utilized throughout this subdivision. And the proposal to reduce the front yard setbacks for the placement of these particular floor plans on the lots doesn't create additional density or clustered development, nor does it provide the opportunity for additional connections throughout the neighborhood or additional recreation within the approved subdivision. The properties in question are surrounded by other R1 development, both the existing development as well as the remainder of this Cerro Verde subdivision. And all of this development is in compliance with the current R1 standard setbacks. It's staff's recommendation that the applicant be directed to select from their existing master plans or design a new floor plan, which can be proposed for these two lots, 18 and 19, that would be in compliance with the setbacks applied to the remainder of the subdivision and consistent with the existing surrounding low density residential development. Staff has provided this recommendation to the applicant previously as well. However, it is the purview of the applicant to apply for, and it is the discretion of you, the Planning Commission, to review and approve a request for a conditional use permit for a planned unit development within this zoning district, the performance overlay zoning districts, including R1 LPZ. And if I could have the next slide, please. As stated, it is staff's recommendation that the Planning Commission review the applicant's request receive all written and oral testimony regarding the proposal, and make the following motion to deny the resolution approving CUP 2021-5 floor plan unit development based on the findings as described in the staff report, and direct the applicant to develop a home which meets the standards of the R1 zoning district as is required under the approval of tentative map 2016-2 and as complied with for the remainder of the homes in the Cerro Verde subdivision. Thank you, and I'd be happy to answer questions.
Thank you, Eva. I do have a question. So my understanding is that's on item number 1. The only thing that has been approved is the tentative map, or is the final map now? Is that correct?
So the tentative map was approved and the final map is approved. So these lots exist and are legally divided.
So I'm a little confused in the narrative here. It says that as these floor plans and elevations are part of the approved set of master plans utilized throughout the subdivision. When that statement approved set of master plans, who approved those plans?
Sure, thank you for the question. So the approved master plans are the building permits that were submitted by the applicant, the proposed floor plans and elevations. So for all of our subdivisions, there's typically a set of various master plans that get approved by the planning and building departments. And so they have a set of floor plans that have been reviewed through the building department, and these are part of that set. So the Cerro Verde subdivision has several master plans they're using throughout the subdivision,
So
but it's not a discretionary approval from the Planning Commission.
It's not part of our purview then to go through the site and architectural of the actual structures then, is that correct?
Correct. Single family homes are not subject to Planning Commission discretion. It would be multifamily and commercial.
All right. Any other questions from the fellow commissioners on the staff report? With no questions, I will open up the public hearing now at 6:20. Are there any speakers on this item?
Yes, Chairperson Hiboy, we have the applicant, Michael Katie. Michael, can you hear us? Can you hear us, Michael?
Yes, I'm there. Can you hear me, Abraham?
Yes, thank you, Michael. Yes, go ahead.
All right. Thank you, Eva, for the staff report. I wanted to give a little bit of context to this project in this particular situation. Commissioner Huboy, just to answer your question, this has a recorded final map. In fact, we have pulled building permits for 16 of the 19 units. This project is underway, going vertical construction. As Eva said, there is basically a master plan of the architecture approved for this project. And just so you guys know, this is a small infill site. I wish we had an aerial. I don't know if you can hand over the screen to me. But this is a site that is amongst previously developed properties on pretty much all sides. So with infill, always you have difficulties and things of that nature. And this cul-de-sac is one of them. So we have, for this 19 units, we have 3 plans. Each elevation has 3 different elevations, or each plan has 3 different elevations, and we have 6 different color schemes. So for a little 19-unit subdivision, it's got a lot of variety to it. And as they said, the vesting tenant map was approved, and then we kind of went in with the architecture. In our master plan, we basically have 2 what I call very traditional 2-story units. When we went in to pre-plot with staff, Abraham was pretty much our contact. One of the issues that arose with our pre-plotting is, in the spirit of keeping with the neighborhood, we were asked to basically put single-family rear elevations to all of the existing neighbors, which we debated. We eventually cooperated and said we would do that. So even though there's 2 plans in our approved master plan that that would fit the setbacks, I think for basically a win-win solution for everybody. We went with our unit that basically has a single story elevation in the rear. On the cul-de-sac, if you kind of go back to, I'm sorry, Eva, if you can go back to the kind of that setback exhibit.
Yeah, Paul, do you mind taking the screen share
So
back?
if you'll see the setbacks, I call them false setbacks because the lot is impinged upon because of the cul-de-sac. And if you really look at the homes, we are not trying to put the homes closer together. It is simply because that lot is cut short a little bit because of the cul-de-sac, particularly on lot 18. If you go to lot 19 and you look at the cul-de-sac exhibit, we're at 18 plus feet in certain parts of that, but you can tell there's a little curve there where we're less than the 18 feet. Lot 18 is just a little bit difficult because the cul-de-sac eats into it. But as you can tell, if you go front to front from lot 18 to the lot directly across this cul-de-sac from it, those houses are the most far apart in the whole subdivision. So I think this is just a little bit of anomaly because where you measure from is impacted by the court. I think the spirit of putting single stories next to single stories is what we're trying to achieve here. I think Abraham would agree with that. Unfortunately, if we would have known about this early in the process, we probably would have handled the CUP a little bit differently, but I really think this is the best solution. I think it's a very technical perspective that staff's taking, which I understand and appreciate in this political climate. But I really do think this is a win-win for everybody, us and the neighbors, and everybody's trying to be cooperative. I believe we were cooperative, and I hope the city will be cooperative in a reciprocating manner. So I'm here to answer any questions, but I'm hoping it's kind of self-explanatory what you see right here. So
I do have a couple questions. Thank you, Mr. Katie.
Sure.
So correct me if on this, you have building permits for all lots, is that correct?
We have building permits for 16 of the 17. We do not
16,
have building
okay.
permits for 18 and 19 and at 13, because 13 we have a construction trailer on. And this has kind of been an issue that we've been discussing with Abraham prior to Brian's departure. And we figured this is probably the best way to handle this coming to Planning Commission. So here we are at the last minute trying to hopefully be in a position to pull the building permits if we get this resolved.
So while there is construction going on the other lots, not on lot 18 and 19, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
I have a
Sal?
question. Yes.
Commissioner Moore?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Katie, for your presentation, for speaking. Quick question, I want to make sure that I heard you speak correctly, that you do have two models or a model that would fit the lot without needing a reduction of the front yard setback, correct?
That is correct. We have three plans here. Plans 2 and 3, which are the larger 2-story rear elevation plans, would meet the setback, but again, we're trying to create a win-win situation amongst neighbors and things of that nature.
Now, what's the, I definitely thank you for taking that into consideration, especially with neighbors and with a 1-story next to a 2-story, that could make a difference. What is the, I guess, since you do have a solution available to you, why not take that route instead of asking for a reduction of the front yard setback?
Again, I think we're trying to be accommodating of the city's spirit of wanting to have new houses relate to their neighbors, and this backs up to 2 single stories. So that's what we are trying to implement. We're trying to be cooperative with the city, cooperative with neighbors, and I think we're comfortable with that. But to come up with a 4th plan on a 19-unit subdivision that already has 3 plans, 3 elevations per plan is extremely punitive. And I think staff would agree with that. And that's why we think this is the most elegant solution in probably a win-win situation for everybody involved. So hopefully that answers your question. We don't want to have the two stories that are approved as part of the master plan looking into a single story that's behind them. So,
But the ones that are on the exhibit here, Mr. Katie, on sheet 1, are showing 2-story units on lot 18 and 19.
yeah, so Commissioner Hubois, how that works is the second story, all of those bedrooms are front loaded. And so the rear elevation is all roof, and there are no windows. The only windows on that elevation are on the first floor. So that was part of the compromise.
So they are 2 stories, but they're set back from the east property line. Is that correct?
That is correct, but there's only 2 stories on the front. The back, there are no 2-story windows whatsoever. It is all roof.
Okay.
So that's what makes it a more compatible use. So there are no, the other ones, they have windows. There's actually bedrooms on the back. In this case, where there are no bedrooms in the back on this plan, the other plans have bedrooms in the back and windows and things of that nature. That's not the case for this particular plan.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Any other questions? Jose?
So you don't have any other plans that you can borrow from other constructions?
We do not. Trust me, if I had an easy solution, I would take it. I think Abraham would tell you we have a 10-year relationship. We've done a lot of projects in the cities. We've always tried to be cooperative, and this is just unfortunately the situation we're in on this one. And I think we're trying to do the right thing. And this is I think it's a good solution. And again, I think the setback in this is a bit false. The only reason that we are not meeting the setback is because of the cul-de-sac location right there, but there is all of the separations of all the houses around them. So we're not trying to jam stuff together. It's a false reading because of where you have to measure your setback from. So
to follow up on your question, because it's kind of similar to the question I asked earlier, we got a little bit different answer, so I was a little confused on that. So just to kind of recap the question I asked you earlier, Mr. Katie, is that you guys do have a floor plan that could fit the lots without needing a reduction of the front yard setback requirement, correct?
that is correct.
Okay,
We have 2 of them.
thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant? Thank you, Mr. Katie. Are there any other speakers on this item, Abraham?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There are no other speakers in this item.
Then I will close the public hearing at 6:30 and bring it back to the commission. You know, one clarification that I'm going to put out there to staff is that, just so I have an understanding of the setback policy regarding the 20% of the lot, the length of the lot. Here we have 2 of these lots, both lot 19 and 18 are trapezoidal. So if you take that property line between lot 18 and lot 19, I scaled that at 1 to 30 inch scale. I scaled that as 92 feet. I take 20% of the 92 feet, I come up with 18.4. Lot 18 is showing an 18.39 foot setback at the rear. Why wouldn't lot 19 also be able to go to 18 feet 4 there? That would be almost enough to meet the 18-foot setback for lot 19 on the front, and that would make that into compliance. I'm not sure why you're going 20 feet on lot 19 where they have that demising property line. If you take the 20% of the 92 feet, you should be able to go to 18 feet 4. At least that might solve the problem for lot 18, lot
Sure.
19. Lot 18 is a different story, but referring to lot 19, if you use that model, go 20% of the 92 feet, you should be able to reduce that 20-foot rear setback to 18 feet 4.
Yeah,
That'd be very close. That might make that compliant.
and you have, as a commission, as Eva indicated, you have that authority to
Okay.
do so.
That's the way I see it, unless I'm seeing something that I'm missing. On lot 18, the way I see it is that this model doesn't work for lot 18. You're reducing the front yard to 12 feet. If you don't have the other houses in this subdivision do have relatively decent-sized front yards. I think that lot 18, you need to either find a model that works for those setbacks or come up with a different model, because lot 18 really is, in my view, it just doesn't, the model there doesn't work for the site. Those are my comments. Any other comments from the commissioner? So?
No, the only comment I have is, no specific to the question I had, is that, that this development, the developer does have, they do have a floor plan that could make this work. I definitely understand, and I do appreciate the fact that they're thinking about, neighbors, that own, that live in single-story homes.
Right.
So I definitely understand that part. But in the same token, I live between two-story homes, and I'd love to be able to. It'd be nice to have one, but
Yeah.
It kind of is what it is.
Right.
But the fact that there is a solution, that they do have a solution, that what kind of is like, okay, well, instead of asking for a reduction, why don't we just go with a different floor plan? Or even if they didn't, there's plenty of time for them to, with their team to come up with something that fits. I do agree with you on lot 19. I do believe it is feasible.
If you take the 20%?
Yeah, exactly. And I'm glad you explained that, because just looking at it visually without all of the, taking the numbers into consideration, I was thinking that it'd be easier with lot 19 than 18.
Right.
But, the fact that they do have a solution already kind of leads me to believe that, I'd rather let them come up with the answer on their own, because they can, instead of asking for a reduction. That's just my thoughts.
The architectural aspect of this problem solving is that this as an architect, when you have a master plan that's already pre-designed with these units, you try to fit them into confines of a approved tentative map that did not go along with this plan unit development. The tentative map was approved. Now they're trying, the applicant, I appreciate the testimony from Mr. Katie, but the applicant is trying to fit pre-designed units to property lines that are already configured, whereas the traditional approach, and it doesn't necessarily work for multi-unit developments, but the beautiful thing about architecture is that it starts from the views, the wind, the solar aspects, and it's designed to peculiarities of the site. Here we're trying to fit something onto that's a configuration, and we already have these designed. We're trying to fit that. That's the problems you get into. They call it the cookie cutter approach. I'm not saying that, using that in a derogatory sense, but those are the issues you have in multi-unit development when it doesn't start from the beginning. You're trying to, it's like an end run on this and trying to make it fit. And those are the problems you have. And those are the issues that I have with that approach a lot of times. If they were more site-specific from the beginning, then this wouldn't have come up tonight. So, and since the lots 18 and 19, there is no construction underway, there's no reason why they can't make it work. So,
Mr. Chair, if I
that's
may?
the way I see it. Jose?
I agree with Commissioner Mora. I mean, they have a solution. It's unfortunate if you get stuck with a two-story house next to you. Sometimes that's just life.
Mm-hmm.
But if they have, the easiest solution is to just build what will fit out of the plans that they already have. I could understand if they didn't have another plan, a floor plan, and this was just a mistake at some point. But this is something that, like you both said, it can be corrected. They have a solution. Just build what you need to build on there. Personal thought.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I may?
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. Very well taken comments. I do want to indicate that, as Mr. Katie stated, he does have other projects that he has been working with in the city. And normally he does start since the very beginning. He was involved with the benchmark development out off of San Benito Extension near Union, one of the first developments that came in with after the recession, and since the very conceptual part of it, and with others here in town, Saddlebrook right next to it as well. This one was a little different, as you mentioned. It was processed through the property owner at that time with the help of other engineers, and then ultimately was taken over by Michael Katie and his team. Point well taken in regards to, since the inception of it, it's good to have architectural in mind. And normally, Mr. Katie and his team have done that in the past in Hollister, but in this particular case, it was a little different. But point well taken.
Yeah, it's in summary, my point is it's really beautiful when you start from the beginning and the design is, if you will, an organic process. Now this is more contrived, trying to make it fit, whereas there are other alternatives. So are there any other, without any other comments from the commission, what is the pleasure of the commission on item number 1? Do I have a motion on this?
Yeah, hold on. It's going to be my first motion, so I want to make sure I get it down. And of course, I'll take some pointers and some corrections. I'm definitely open for that. I make a motion that we deny the resolution approving conditional use permit 2021-5. Do I need to read the whole thing, or do I?
No, you don't.
Okay.
As
well as the
draft conditions.
Any
further discussion on that motion?
Mr. Chair, I do want to indicate that there is a hand up. I know you closed the public hearing, but just out of courtesy, I do want to indicate that there is a hand up by Mr. Michael Katie, but you did close the public hearing.
I'm sorry,
It's up to you.
the public hearing has been closed, and we have a motion on the floor. Any other discussion from the commission on the motion? Do I have a second on that motion?
I second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Oh.
Or no, excuse me. I'm saying aye to Commissioner Mora's motion.
Motion, that's
but
correct.
it's the motion for denial.
That is correct.
Okay, just want to make that clear. So is it, in that perspective, do we say yay or nay?
In that perspective, it was a motion
I
for
support
denial
it, I
of the
support.
resolution. The resolution is approving it,
Mhm.
so it is Mr. Mora's motion is to deny the resolution. And
Yes,
so
and I
so it's
support that. When I say yay,
Yeah.
I support Mr. Mora's motion to deny the request.
Correct.
very well.
Okay, just
Yeah,
want to make
so-
that clear. Did you want a roll call on that?
Yes, please. Commissioner Salvador Mora,
Yes.
Commissioner Jose Fernandez,
Yes.
Chairperson David Heboy.
Yes, and to be clear, we're saying it's a motion for denial.
It is a motion for
Okay.
denial of the resolution that would approve the exceptions. Thank
Yeah.
you.
And thank you, Mr. Katie, and good luck. I'm sure you can get through this and find a resolution to it. Okay. So, we go on to item number 2. Item number 2 is a tentative map 2015-9 amendment. Mr. Alex Siwak, the applicant, is requesting to amend the City of Hollister Planning Commission Resolution 2016-11 by deleting condition of approval number 55, emergency vehicle access, which states prior building permit, quote, prior building permit issuance, the applicant shall provide an emergency access to West Side Boulevard, end of quote. This project, tentative map 2015-9 and conditional use permit 2016-3 for planned unit development, Farmstead, was originally approved by the City of Hollister Planning Commission on January 28, 2016 for a tentative map to subdivide an approximately 2-acre parcel into 13 single-family lots in the low-density residential performance overlay R1-L/PZ zoning district. The project site is located south of South Street, west of West Side Boulevard, and north Steinbeck Drive, further identified as San Benito County Assessor Parcel Number 058-060-010. CEQA is categorically exempt. Abraham?
Yes, thank you, Chairperson Huboy. We'll have Amber Cameron provide the presentation for this item. Amber?
Thank you. Good evening, Amber.
Good evening, thank you. As mentioned, the applicant is requesting to amend the City of Hollister's Planning Commission Resolution 2016-11 to remove condition of approval number 55, which is the emergency vehicle access, or EVA, which states prior to the issuance of a building permit that the applicant shall provide an emergency access to West Side Boulevard. This project, tentative map 2015-9 and conditional use permit 2016-3 for planned unit development, also known as Farmstead, was originally approved by the City of Hollister's Planning Commission on January 28, 2016 for a tentative map to subdivide approximately 2-acre parcels into 13 single-family lots in the low-density residential performance overlay zoning district. As you can see on your screen, there is a map that's been provided of the Homestead subdivision. There is a red circle which indicates where the EVA is located. Next slide, please. I also just wanted to provide you guys with a visual of what it currently looks like. The applicant had sent an email earlier. This was one of the attachments that was in it, just so you guys can see what it currently looks like. The arrows do indicate where future access will be. Next slide, please. Can you go down to the next slide? So sorry.
It's okay.
And one more. Thank you. The applicant would like to request the removal of condition 55 from PC Resolution 2016-11, which states as follows. Prior to building permit issuance, the applicant shall provide an emergency vehicle access to West Side Boulevard. The removal of this condition would eliminate the condition to provide emergency vehicle access to West Side Boulevard. A letter dated March 1st, 2021, which was submitted to Interim Development Services Director and Planning Manager Abraham Prado by the applicant, was also provided to the Planning Commission, which outlines the specific reasonings for why the applicant is requesting this condition to be removed. I would also like to add that another letter was issued today through an email specifically addressed to the planning commissioners, with the applicant again providing reasonings why the EVA should be considered for removal. Next slide, please.
Just want to say that a hard copy of that latest email is in your little portables as well.
If I may jump in here just for a second, it's EVA singular, but the previous map that we're showing looked like there were 2 emergency access locations. There's one south and one north on Lindsay Avenue Lane. Is that correct? I don't see the northern one on sheet C2. I see the removable bollards, the one on the south where Lindsay transitions into a Moore Street. But I guess there's, on C2, there's one that's, maybe it's not clearly shown, but there's two. Are there two EVAs or one that's in, that we're discussing tonight?
We're discussing one EVA that was approved by the Planning Commission, previous Planning Commission, that is on the southern part of Lindsay, where Lindsay and Moore.
I guess I was mistaken. It looked like it was, like there were two that were circled there earlier. Okay, so it's the one EVA. Okay.
That is correct.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Proceed, Amber, please.
Thank you. Can we go back? Sorry. You were fine. I was looking at another slide.
That's okay.
Yes, thank you so much. So the inclusion of an emergency vehicle access onto West Side Boulevard was a recommendation and requirement of the Planning Commission for inclusion on this project at the January 28, 2016 Planning Commission meeting. This was due in part because there was only one ingress and egress driveway on South Street into the subdivision, which consists of a total of 52 homes, 39 homes for the Cottages subdivision and 13 for the Farmstead subdivision. In the case of an emergency or calamity, that obstruction access to the only driveway, the EVA could be potentially used. Most recently, this item was taken before the Hollister's Development Review Committee at our April 1st, 2021 meeting. The City of Hollister's Police and Fire Department have indicated that the EVA is not required by any of the fire codes or any other codes. Both the emergency services departments have indicated that they are neutral on the removal or retention of the EVA for this location. Can you advance the slide, please? Thank you so much. With that, staff recommends that the City of Hollister's Planning Commission review the applicant's request, receive all written and oral testimony regarding the proposal, and either one, adopt a resolution amending PC Resolution 2016-11 to grant the applicant's request to amend Condition 55 to remove the EVA as described, subject to the findings and conditions contained in the draft resolution, or two, deny the applicant's request and uphold the findings and conditions of PC Resolution 2016-11 for tentative map 2015-9 as originally adopted. Are there any questions for staff? And I would also like to indicate that Mr. Sidewalk is also available to speak and take any questions as well.
Amber, I guess unfortunately we don't have anyone from a representative from the fire department here tonight.
We do have somebody on call. Acting Fire Chief Bedoya indicated that if we needed to put him on, that he would be more than happy to be on for this item.
Okay, but perhaps you or Amber may know the answer to my question is that on the fire code, I read that with 30 units or over any 30 or over, they would need that EVA access point, but with 38 that are fire sprinkler, then that would be exempt. Is that did I get it right, or is that correct? So we're not in violation of fire code if we remove the EVA.
According to Acting Fire Chief, at this point, he indicated that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Amber, that we would not be in violation of removing the EVA if the Planning Commission determined it. We brought it before you tonight because it was approved by the previous Planning Commission. I think you might be the only one that was.
Since I've been on here for 16 years, I think I probably would.
helping out with our community, David, Commissioner Huboy.
Trying to remember them all though.
But it's just policy that now. Previously, it was more than likely it was a different fire chief at that time as well, and so now as Mr. Sidewalk is getting ready to commence the improvements of the site, and is submitting his application to all the different departments. When it got to the fire department, the fire chief indicated that basically that if the commission indicated that they did not want it, that he would be okay with it. And if the commission indicated that they want to keep it per what was discussed back in, I think it was 2015. And as Amber stated, part of the staff report as well, the reasoning was because there is only one ingress egress out of South Street for the, I think it's a total of 52 units. It's only going to be 13 units for the Farmstead development that is currently along West Side Boulevard. It's currently vacant. The other 39 units have been recently developed into smaller lots. And it was the cottages, subdivision known as the cottages. I think it was 39 units on that development. And so because of that, it was decided from the previous planning commission that in case of an emergency, there should be an emergency that could potentially, if there's a calamity that can block access, ingress, egress off of South Street, that there's a potential for a secondary emergency vehicle access off of West Side Boulevard. But if fire chief indicated that he would be okay either way, and so therefore, which is why we're bringing it tonight before you, as Amber stated.
Thank you, Abraham.
You're welcome.
Any questions from the commissioners on the staff report?
So, Mr. Prado, you did mention that acting fire chief
Yes.
Bedolla
Yes.
is available.
Yes, Amber actually was in contact with him, and she just notified me that if we need to hear from him, that he's happy for us to put him on.
Yeah, it's if Amber could reach out to him, put him on. I do have a question regarding what was submitted to us by Mr. Siwak.
Sure.
And I just want to get a little bit of clarification of where where Chief Bedolla's comments were coming from, as far as like what was he answering just from just regarding the emergency vehicle access, or like if there was a need maybe to have the EVA, in case of emergency, if people need to evacuate, I just want to see what exactly his thinking was when given that answer.
Sure, we can try to get him on right now, in a bit if you like.
Yeah.
We can wait until we get him on, or if you'd like to open up the public hearing, however you prefer.
I'm fine with opening up.
Yeah, we can certainly,
Mr.
unless there are
Bedolla.
any other questions. Jose, do you have any questions on the staff report? No. Okay, any other questions, Sal, on the staff
No.
report?
No.
Okay, with
If I may, just to clarify, because I'll be able to text him or call him to let him know, but in terms of making sure that you're all able to hear him, do you want me to send a Zoom invite, or will someone in the chambers be calling him on their cell phone? Abraham?
Thank you, Amber. I just texted him actually right now as Commissioner Mora was asking, and so he indicated that he was available now. If you like, I can give him a call. And Paul indicated that phone would be okay. We could just put the microphone
You have
on
the
if that's
speakerphone?
okay. Yeah.
Okay, let's get him on the speaker.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Amber,
you.
for that.
Thank you, Amber. And while you're getting him on the speakerphone, I will open up the public hearing now at 5 minutes to 7. Any speaker cards on this item?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we have two. We have Alex Siwak.
Mr. Siwak?
Alex, can you hear us? Mr. Siwak?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Good. So I can start?
Yes.
Good. So thank you for considering our request, commissioners. This issue arose in early February when we contacted Fire Marshal Bedolla to ask him about particulars of the EVA. In his email response, he stated, "We do not need the EVA. There is adequate access in and out of the development." And that's a direct quote from his email. When I brought this up with staff, they indicated that since the EVA was a condition of your commission, you would need to make the determination. It is our understanding that the fire code allows one access roadway if less than 30 homes are serviced by that single access. But if all the homes have fire sprinklers, that number does not apply. The 38 homes already completed all have fire sprinklers, as well as our 13 homes will. Additionally, after you pass the first easterly home off of South Street, the one adjacent to our lot number 2, 2 access roadways serve all the homes. And earlier, Mr. Huboy, I believe, questioned the Google map with the 2 red arrows. The red arrows actually indicate the extensions of the barricaded, is it called Patrick Drive and Amore Street, so that those 2 arrows will now become the northerly and southerly entrance into the continuous north-south road running parallel to West Side Boulevard labeled Lindsay Lane. So that there's there'll be a circle of continuity with the 2 access points and through our project once it gets built. If the requirement for the EVA is not removed, there's going to be some significant impacts to health, safety, and the physical environment. To install the EVA, over 30 feet of the existing curb, gutter, and sidewalk along West Side Boulevard will need to be demolished, hauled away, and disposed of. That same 30 feet segment of curb, gutter, and sidewalk will have to be replaced. The driveway will commence from the bottom of the flow line of the gutter. Because there is no curb in the EVA driveway as it comes off of West Side Boulevard, there'll be a 6-inch elevation change at each end where it joins back with the continuations of the sidewalk going north and south, potentially causing trip and fall incidents. Installing a 26-foot wide continuous concrete pathway from the back of West Side Boulevard sidewalk to the curb and gutter along Lindsay Lane will create more impervious surface. In a heavy rainfall, stormwater will sheet flow from Lindsay Lane over the sidewalk of West Side Boulevard, again potentially causing slip and fall incidents. Bollards will entice teens, and I believe there was a picture shown earlier of an existing EVA towards the south part of San Benito Street with a near cross street of Promise Lane. And you can see on that picture that it's a mini skate park. And bollards will entice teens to bike or skateboard from Lindsay Lane into West Side Boulevard sidewalk or accidentally continue into West Side Boulevard traffic lanes. Even if the bollards are replaced with a gate, the elevation changes at both ends of the EVA sidewalk along West Side Boulevard will entice teens to use those elevation changes and bumps, and again, potentially finish up in the traffic lanes. And again, during the period of installation of the EVA, traffic and pedestrians will be impacted. So that's a quick summary, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Siwak?
Yeah, I have a quick question. So, you mentioned how there will be a 6-inch elevation change at each end of the sidewalk, which could potentially lead to injury or incidents, trip and fall. Knowing that it's going to create that potential issue, have you and your team come up with a solution so that way it's not a hazard?
Can I answer?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So one of the facets of the West Side Boulevard existing design that it was completed 20 years ago. The sidewalk backs up to the curb and gutter, so that when you do a cross section of West Side Boulevard, you have the gutter. It goes up 6 inches of curb, and then continues 5 feet wide sidewalk. For the EVA area, there can be no curb, so that the maybe a foot or two of sidewalk closest to West Side Boulevard would have to be depressed a maximum distance of 6 inches, so that the sidewalk goes down to the bottom of the gutter and no curb exists. It's exactly the same as in a standard driveway, in a regular home, so that if the emergency vehicle has to come, it smoothly travels from the surface of the West Side Boulevard up the little ramp to get up to 6 inches and continue on over the sidewalk that's at the same elevation as the surrounding sidewalk is. And so at either end, if you take maybe you don't really see it well in that picture that I took of the existing one down at the southern end of San Benito Street, but you will have a curve where the curb on either end of the EVA will drop down 6 inches to nothing, where that over the width of the 26-foot width of the EVA. And the concern is that because the sidewalk is right up against the curb and gutter, which is how it is on both sides of West Side Boulevard, up and down the street, that there will be that little ramp, that 6-inch ramp. And I don't want to overstate it, but I suspect if a 10, 11, 9-year-old is walking along there with his skateboard, he'll try to take that little bump, or maybe even with his little trick bike or whatever. So, and right there at the intersection of South and West Side Boulevard, there's a 4-way stop sign. There is no stop sign on West Side Boulevard traffic at the intersection with Steinbeck, and another 4-way stop sign with at West Side with Apricot Lane. So once people stop southbound on the stop sign on West Side Boulevard, they're picking up speed knowing that their next stop sign is down at Apricot Lane, and they have the right of way to go through the Steinbeck intersection at the speed limit. So that's for what it's worth. That's something worth considering, and since Marshal Bedolla, without any prompting or without any coercion, simply answered back my email saying, we don't need the EVA, and then went even further saying there's adequate access in and out of the development. I thought it was worth then pursuing removal of the EVA, and here we are.
Great, thank you. And second question I have, sorry to take up so much time, guys. What is the financial cost to install the EVA?
It's probably going to be significant. We have to break it up, jackhammer it. We have to probably finish up at least a foot or so into the blacktop area of the asphalt surface of West Side Boulevard. It's going to be, the EVA is 26 feet wide and probably have to extend 3 or 4 feet at either end. Then you have to pour everything reinstall it. You have to
Do
continue.
you have, sorry to cut you off. Do you have a ballpark estimate of what all is
I would
worth?
suspect maybe anywhere from 15 to 20,000. I believe, just off the top of my head.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you, sir. That's all the question I have.
Any questions? Thank you, Mr. Siwak. Appreciate that. Appreciate your testimony. Any other speakers?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we do have, want to indicate that we do have Chief Bedoya on the line, but we do have a second speaker, Lindsay Schoolcraft. Hello, Lindsay, can you hear us?
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. So, I've heard Mr. Siwak speak, and, I respectfully appreciate his concerns of, rambunctious teenagers and disturbing the land out here. I don't know if Mr. Siwak or even the standing police chief realizes that we have already had a fire in this development that has kind of scarred us as a whole. The fire was at the last home on the corner of Patrick Drive and the entrance of South Street. So the only entrance that Mr. Siwak is claiming will be significant for both communities, that house right there was engulfed, and it was engulfed from the left side of the home. So that would have trickled into the farmstead development if a home had been there at that point. Given the extensive damage of that home, the entire entrance to Brennan Way, as well as partial sides of South Street, were blocked by emergency vehicles. That meant that 38 families could not get to their homes, could not get to their children. If they had an emergency in their own lives, they couldn't get out of the development. If that fire had, somehow jumped, we would have all been stuck. And so it is extremely concerning to hear that a builder would suggest to eliminate an evacuation access route when this is something that this community has already had to deal with. Thankfully, there's nothing blocking either route right now on that end of Amore and Brennan, as well as Patrick. So if we really needed to, we could have gotten out that way. But in terms of vehicles, there was no way. So I don't know. I mean, if a fire had happened further down, I don't understand how, potentially 50 vehicles are supposed to get out at one time. And let's just assume that that's a minimum event. If something larger happens, heaven forbid, we have a devastating earthquake and we need to get out, or people need to get into us to help us. You can't. And, I honestly, if I'm going to be completely honest, if we hadn't had that fire, I probably could have cared less. I would have had known no better as to whether or not that emergency vehicle access route would have been beneficial or not. Given that we have already experienced this, I can say 100% it is not safe for our community or for the Farmstead community to only have one access route. That's way too many homes, way too many people, despite the fact that they're relatively small developments. We have, like I said, 38 families. We have 50 children alone in this community. So that's just something that I want everybody to take into consideration. If something like this was to happen again, we speak from experience. That road was blocked. We could not get in and we could not get out. That's not to mention all the traffic that started on South Street because of, looky-loos. So it's just something that we really want everybody to take into consideration.
Thank you very much
Thank you,
for your
Lindsay.
comments.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else care to speak on this item?
There are no more speaker with their hands raised, Mr. Chair.
Do you have Charlie Bedola online?
We have Charlie. Paul was kind enough to send them a link. We will go into it right now.
Hi, it's Charlie. Can you guys hear me?
Hi, Charlie.
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Hi, thank you. Sorry I couldn't be there tonight. It's been very busy taking on this dual role, so I apologize. Otherwise, I would have been there. But I I respect both sides on the decision of the EVA. I'm just going to give you my view on it and on the way forward. So back in the days when we had, for some reason, they would put up EVAs. So to me and fellow other departments are, the EVA is a complete waste. And I'll tell you why. I either want 2 full access or no EVA at all. So the EVA, there's 2 bad things about the EVA. Whenever we have an emergency, whenever we have an incident there, we're not going to go to the EVA to unlock it. We need everybody cleared out of there prior to us getting into there. We're the only ones that have the keys to it, and we're not going to stop and go to the EVA to unlock the EVAs. As far as we're concerned, you know, the fire code doesn't allow traffic calming devices, and that's considered a traffic calming device on my part. In my book. An EVA is also it's an opportunity for crime. So if you think about it, someone could park on West Side Boulevard, they could walk into the development, and they could go in, rob cars, do whatever. Police start coming into the development. Where does that person go? They go directly right onto West Side Boulevard and take off, and they get away clean. So that's another thing for that. So this was approved with it at the time. The fire code states that you only need 1 with a certain amount of homes, and it's usually about 200 homes before you start putting in a second egress exit, only because the old code required it down to 90, but now every home is sprinklered. Every home has a sprinkler in it. Now, you know, we have other developments. We have Maple Park that's a lot more homes in there, a lot tinier, a lot more congested. I don't like those. Those were before me. Now we would say have a second exit out on those if they're going to have them that condensed, and no gated communities, because you're just locking them into there. With this one, I'll support either way from it. I'm not going to say I understand the residents, they did see the fire. The fire did get put out, but, you know, for them to experience that too, you know, they were safe. I guarantee they were safe. Every home sprinklered, but I can't take away the way they feel and what they experienced, you know. I don't know if this helps, but from the way forward, I would say no EVAs. If we're going to do a second one, it has to be full access, because we want to have full access for them to get out. We had a development up in Oak Creek and Quail Hollow where Mr. Intravia wants to do a development, and they wanted to EVA up there. And I'm like, no, we're not going to do EVA. We have to do full access. Well, they were saying all those homes are going to be sprinklered. They are, but your development was built to have an exit in the future. None of your 200 plus homes are sprinklered. So I'm more worried about those 200 homes on the old development than the new homes that were going in. So it was more for the old development more than the new development. So EVAs from this point forward, I don't approve of them. And, you know, we move forward and have full access or one. This is a small development. I understand it, and I'll support either way, whatever the decision is on this one. But from this way on, I'd really ask that we don't. And he came to me asking about an EVA, and I wish I would have known a little bit more when I said, no, I don't need it, because if I knew it was already approved and in there, then I would have said, hey, this is already too far. And like they've told me before, this is already too far down the road. It was already approved. But if they would have came to me in the first place prior to it getting approved by everyone, then I would have said, okay, it's approved. We'll just leave it. So I don't know if this helps on your decision, but in the future, I would say no EVA, full access, because we're not going to kind of unlock the EVA. And usually it gets to about, I don't go the full 200 homes, but we started getting about that. We're starting to put in a second exit, or we're building for the future, for future connectivity to connect it to. I understand this one. I know there was talk about it, but there was no way to do that second full access out of there because it was too close to the other roadways at the intersection. So if there's any other questions, I could help. I don't know if I'm helping or not, or making it worse, but I support either way on this one. But the way to move forward on this, I don't approve. I don't agree with the EVAs, and that was the reason why.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Charlie, so that this EVA that we're looking at tonight, if there was a way it was fully accessible, you wouldn't need a lockbox or anything just for the fire department to access it, would you support it? Or is this what you were saying, that it's not feasible to have a fully accessible EVA at that location? Just want to make sure I get that correct.
Now I believe this went through engineering and on that part, on the traffic, and that's their expertise, meaning it's way too close to that other intersection where there's a stop sign to have it come out and then turn directly right. I want to say it's really close, within 50 feet of the other intersection. It's pretty close to there. It's really not that far. So I don't know if that's feasible per engineering standards. That's why I was like, but if it's full access, I'm okay, but I'm not going to go to vote and say I go against, what the city standard or the engineering standards, because that's their expertise. If they say it's not safe, it's not feasible, I support them on that.
But hypothetically, if the engineering department supported it and it was fully accessible, would you then have a different point of view regarding the EVA?
Yeah, you're making my dream come true. It's full access. 2 points of entrance and exit. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That brings out other questions to mind.
But like you said, I'm not going to fight against the EVA on this project right here. It's better to get it ahead of time. I'll support it either way on this right here.
So the question I had for you, and the reason why I asked to get you online to speak about it, is when you were emailed your professional opinion regarding whether the fire department needs the EVA, were you answering strictly from a perspective of being able to get emergency vehicles in and out of that development, not taking into consideration anything else, just strictly getting vehicles in and out?
Who's talking right now? I can't hear. I don't know who it is.
Commissioner Mora.
Oh, hi, Mr. Mora. Okay.
Sorry about that.
No, I'm more on the emergency vehicle access for it too, but like I said, I'm going strictly by what the code says, and EVAs, it really doesn't say anything in there that we support EVAs. I'm like, okay, well, why does everyone keep saying put EVAs in? I go, this might have been something in the old days that happened, and it just kept going and going and going, but it's not feasible for us because we don't come and unlock them. People are trapped in there anyways if they're depending on them. So that's why I'm saying we'll rather go full access, because it has two functions. It gets the people out of there, and it gives them another way to get out of there without being locked in, because we want everybody out of the way so we could come in and take care of mitigate the emergency, if that makes sense.
Got it. And respect. For EVAs, there's not just one set standard where because I'm looking at a photo which you can't see, but that we do have an existing EVA at Promise Way and San Benito Street, where there's three, I don't know what the correct term is.
Bollards?
Yeah, bollards.
Yes.
You don't have to have a locked gate there, correct? You could just, the EVA could have the bollards.
It does the same thing. So instead of one locked gate, now we have 3 bollards that we have to go unlock. So it makes it even worse. You know what I mean? And that one's, I don't even know why they put that one in there anyways. That was before me and everything. So they're like, oh, we have to have it. I would have said, no, don't put it in. Like I said, right now, all that's done is ruin the other roadway because people try to go in on the other side of it. We did have a fire. It could have contributed to the damaging some part of that EVA where they caused the fire to the side of the house. We have no ways of knowing, but people would gain access, cross, and wreck that person's yard to get in on the Promise Way in San Benito Street. So they would just go around those bollards to drive up on the curve and over the person's yard, doing damage to there. Honestly, I would have it just fully open. Well, that one, it's a little different because you can't gain that access onto San Benito Street to leave it fully open. You're only allowed a certain amount of time. That's why, and I get it. I have no fight in that. I think that was per Caltrans, or the state says, nope, you can't come in off of here. But I don't know why they put it on there anyways. So they said, you got to lock it up. Lock it up. Okay, you got it.
Yeah, got it.
And there's other ones like Black Forest and Sunny Slope. They have that one. And that one's never has been used. But like I said, kids come in or whoever comes in, it's an opportunity for crime. People to come in, do what they want to do, and head on out. And they can't get caught because they take their cars and they take off. You have to go all the way around and through there. So it's kind of security and emergency access.
Yeah, and then what was part of your opinion to the email? Were you just looking at it from just a fire perspective? Because I know you mentioned, and it's been mentioned in this email that all the homes have sprinklers. Now, I'm not a firefighter or a marshal. I don't have experience in there, but just because homes now currently have sprinklers doesn't necessarily mean that there won't be out of control fires, and as well as a need for evacuation for other considerations, gas leaks, major earthquakes. So even though that the EVA may not be a solution that you like, but if they have pillars there, at least people would be able to evacuate. Maybe they can't take their vehicles out of there, but at least get their themselves and their family and neighbors. At least that would create a secondary evacuation, correct? Because let's say there's an incident that kind of blocks the one and only entrance to that development, as well as there could be in a medical an emergency situation where there's first responders vehicles that are blocking that entrance. So kind of going back to, and you didn't hear the one neighbor, or maybe you did. So
I did.
At least,
and I respect her
that there
the way
would
she
be
feels.
a secondary option for them, because I'm not in favor of having an EVA that has a locked gate. To me, it just doesn't make sense. I'm looking at it from a perspective of, being able to at least get themselves out of there. Who cares about if they lose their vehicle or whatnot? But at least they're alive and safe. Create a second, and of course this is all it's hypotheticals, but coming from
I get it.
From kind of thinking like worst case scenario, if I live there, or if would I want another way to be able to exit that development if there was a worst case scenario where we couldn't get out through the main and only entrance through this development. And that's the only issue I have, is that the fact that there is only one entrance and exit to this development. I just recently joined, but I'm not sure why this was approved this way. But I do feel a little more confident that worst case scenario, people do have another option to evacuate their homes, with the EVA.
Yeah, they'll be able, so you got to understand, it's not my opinion. It's the fire code. And the fire code allows up to like 200 homes for single entrances now. And you got to understand, a lot of the times, the best thing to do is to shelter in place rather than to get out, because that could be safer also. And we practice that all the time. In addition, I'd be a little more concerned if it was in the WUI, where it's not in the WUI, it's not in the wild urban land interface. You know, it's in the middle of the town. We know where the major gas lines go. So that's why we're saying this is such a small development, but I do respect that it was already approved and it was there. So the plan for the future, I'd just have two full accesses in and out if we're gonna do that, and say, get rid of the EVA. We don't use them. They're locked up. People are still trapped no matter what, because they can't get their vehicles out. So even the gate, even if there was a gate, it's not a fence. It's just a gate where you just whip it open and open it up. Okay, so that's where we're at on that. I mean, like I said, I support either way on this one right here. But the planned future, if this were to happen, I would say full access, or it's such a small development that, and the sprinkler systems are to protect the residents that are on the inside too. And they're made with non-combustibles on the outside too. So I do remember that other fire. It was an exterior fire due to waste in the trash can that caused that. So it was just the exterior of the home that ended up burning, which it is scary. Fire is scary. So I understand where she's coming from, and I don't know if it helps or if I just confused it. I'm sorry.
No, we definitely appreciate
We
you
really
calling
appreciate
in and making yourself available to answer our questions. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't have any further questions. Mr. Fernandez, do you have any?
I just have one question, sir. This is Commissioner Fernandez. I guess, would you be comfortable living there, knowing with what you know?
Pardon me?
I guess my question would be, would you be comfortable living there?
Me? Yeah,
That's all I need.
absolutely.
Okay, that's all I need to know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, if I may?
Yes.
My colleague Eva just reminded me that the public comment period is still open. If you would like to close that, but I do have a hand up again from Miss Lindsay Schoolcraft. She did speak already, but it is up to you and the commission if you would like to allow her to speak again before you close the public hearing.
This public hearing is still open, so I'll allow Lindsay to speak again.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hello, Lindsay, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Thank you so much. I appreciate for the second opportunity to speak. I really just wanted to so I did not realize that a second access point was an option for this build. Ideally, a second access route for this build would be preferred over an EVA. I agree with the standing chief that, right, if an event was to happen like it already has, they're going to access it through the South Street, which is what they did. I also want to just kind of echo something that Mr. Mora mentioned in that, you know, sprinklers, just because our homes have them does not mean that they always work. And yes, the fire chief was correct in that it was an external fire, but that external fire went to their PG&E box, which caused an explosion. Her sprinklers did not go off. She did not have any type of safety from that fire reaching the inside of the home. So just to clarify that, that's an example of these wonderfully newly built homes having amazing sprinkler systems that still sometimes don't work. But yes, if a second access route is an option, that is much more preferred by this community than having an EVA. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I know that you did allow for Ms. Lindsay to speak. We do have Mr. Alex Siwak's hand raised again. He did speak already. It is up to you and the commission if you want to close it now or if you want to allow him to speak again.
I'll allow Mr. Siwak to speak.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Siwak, can you hear us? Hello, Alex? Mr. Siwak?
Yes, I just had to hit the unmute button.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, feel free.
So I think another point that people should pay attention to is that along the whole length of our property line with West Side Boulevard, apart from the 26 feet of EVA, there is a 3-foot high wrought iron fence. And it's the same type of fence as most of you may have seen that's on the southeast corner of 4th Street and West Side Boulevard, running on West Side Boulevard in front of those 3-story apartment buildings right on that corner. So it's that type of fence. It's 3 feet high. And in terms of people physically evacuating, I would think that the majority would be able to get over a 3-foot fence. It runs, as I say, from the lot 1 to lot 13 along the property line on the west side of West Side Boulevard.
That's a 3-foot.
That's all I have to say. Thank you.
I'm familiar with that fence.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, we do have, if you would like to close the public hearing at this point, we do not have anybody else with their hands raised. It's up to you. It's up to you and the commission.
Thank you. I will close the public hearing now. We'll bring it back to the commission. It's 6:27.
Mr. Chair, if I may, I know there was questions in regards to actually making that EVA an actual road. Back then, just a little history. When we get an application in, we normally, within that first week, prepare a draft staff report and we send it out to the different departments, police, fire, engineering, building, public works. If it involves restaurants, we send it to environmental health. We give them about a week to review, and then we get together as a whole to discuss the project. And so we have every department, pretty much provide us comments ahead of time if it's possible. And then when we meet, lately we haven't been meeting in person through Zoom. We give each department the ability to speak. Right now, the representative for the fire department is Chief Bedoya. So definitely, any future projects, we will make sure that I think we all agree that it would be nice to have 2 accesses instead of 1 and an EVA. At that point, I believe it was a different fire chief and it was a different city engineer. We do have our acting city engineer on board now, but it is my understanding, similar to what Chief Bedoya was indicating, that the reason why that EVA is not actually a road that connects to West Side Boulevard is because West Side Boulevard is considered more of a higher traffic road. I believe it's termed a collector road. And it is also a truck route for San Benito County, and also the proximity to the intersection as well, which is why the city avoids having other intersections than what is already kind of planned for. But he is online in case you would like for him to speak. But that was the reason. Those are the discussions that happened at the DRC meetings, Development Review Committee meetings. The recommendations of why then we require the applicant to make these modifications to the site plans before we bring it before your commission.
Because of the issue with, if it was a full-fledged intersection route, it would be too close to the other ones.
Correct.
It would be a traffic issue.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, we've heard testimony here tonight from Mr. Siwak with some of his technical issues. I don't quite understand it all, but I think it's, like any ingress to a property, you flare the edges out. I don't see the issue there, but we heard testimony from Mr. Bodella, the fire chief, regarding his reservations for this EVA. And then also from the practicality standpoint, I think Commissioner Mora made some excellent points that although that the EVA is not fully accessible, it does allow residents to exit from their properties physically between the bollards. I think in the future, I want to make this clear in the future, I think we really need to take a look at the issues with these EVAs and come up with some design alternatives. But any other comments? Comments from my fellow commissioners? Sal?
Yeah, thank you, sir. Yeah, you know, I definitely agree with the chief, with the fire chief, that, you know, in the future, I think they really need to take a harder look at these EVAs. I definitely understand why he's not in favor of them. It's definitely understandable. I don't really care for them a whole lot myself. It doesn't make sense. Like, how are you going to have time to really get out there, and who's going to think about that? You know, when first responders are you know, getting to their destination, I'm sure that's not on the top of mind. Oh yeah, you know, this place has EVA, and we should try to go through that way as well. But you know, that's something that should be considered for the future. Fortunately, this one was approved with the condition of having the EVA. I definitely understand the applicants, you know, why they want to remove the EVA. I definitely get it, especially considering the fact that, you know, that West Side Boulevard is busy. It could potentially, you know, I think that's where kind of like parents gotta have to step in and kind of parent their children whether or not to use that as a ramp. Although that kids, we all have children, don't always listen to us. But you know, when I look at it from, you know, worst case scenario. I'd rather give the residents there a second option to evacuate if needed, at least bodies, you know, if not vehicles. So it's really difficult for me to go against that recommendation. I was looking at the cost. It's like, okay, 15,000-20,000, yeah, but you know, I think that's really shouldn't really be taken into consideration when it comes to potentially saving lives. I think that's more important. Yes, you know, does it potentially open it up for crime, for people to park their cars along West Side Boulevard, jump out and go, you know, break into homes? That's a possibility, you know. But with that possibility, we shouldn't be looking at removing a potential escape route for people that live there. That's my biggest thing.
But I guess, and there also the other issue came up with a 3-foot tubular fence. I mean,
Yeah.
you could negotiate that. It'd be hard for a child to do that, but
Yeah, or maybe an older
from a
individual.
practicality
'cause,
standpoint.
yeah, you know, hopefully people would help maybe someone who's maybe physically disabled to be able to,
Right.
even though it's 3 feet. 3 feet for
Yeah,
for
from
us may be fine,
Well,
but
you
3 feet for
raised
someone
another
else.
good point there from accessibility standpoint. I
Yeah.
mean, the bollards, I assume those bollards are spaced apart at least, what, 3.5 feet, 4 feet?
Approximately, Chairperson Hiboy, that's the example on the Promise Way that currently exists. So it appears to be approximately that.
So if you're in a wheelchair or physical impairment, you can easily transgress through between the bollards, the removable bollards, which are only removable by the fire department.
No,
We've got some
exactly.
issues there. with the
Yeah.
EVAs, definitely.
Yeah, no, definitely. You know, and I think, well, you know, unfortunately, we're kind of maybe too far down the road, you know, in the process. But
yeah.
I think maybe the architectural design could have been maybe a little, you know, could have been altered to potentially have, you know, like a, you know, if there's only one entrance, you know, and entrance and exit, if it was wide enough to potentially have, like, you know, 2 lanes, or whatnot, because, I know that's not a huge lot, so they're trying to fit as many homes there as possible, but, it looks like, if they did some alterations, maybe they don't, have one, single-family residence in that, maybe close to that, then maybe that could have been a possible solution.
Could have been, but
You know.
these could have been and things that can be happening in the future is something
Yeah.
worth noting. But what we're looking at here tonight is an EVA with the removable bollards.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's all. And I just want to make sure that, because I heard the speaker say that she heard that there was a solution of adding a second access.
But I don't think that's
But
where.
I didn't hear that. I think. Oh, if it was,
Yeah.
yeah, okay. Yeah, 'cause I thought she said that she heard that there could be a second access to kind of solve the problem, but I
don't-
didn't.
From,
Yeah,
From,
I
from
don't-
what Abraham was saying and from when it went through the DRC review, a full-fledged vehicular access is not acceptable from the standpoint of engineering.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right,
but,
yeah.
but what we have here is we've got, we've got your access coming in from South Street on Brennan Way, but this EVA would be a kind of a partial escape route, partial access, if you will.
Yeah.
Not fully accessible, but at least it does present an alternative means of egress in case of for hazards. We will all, I guess, concur with that. Mr.
Okay.
Fernandez?
That's all I have.
Commissioner Fernandez?
I kind of agree with the fire chief. I mean, he's kind of the expert of the group. I agree that these EVAs, I've been in different companies where we actually had EVAs for the buildings, and every time there was an emergency, it never got used. People came in the front door and took care of their business. I think if you had to evacuate for a major earthquake or a gas leak, I don't think you'd be getting out in your car. And I think a lot of people, when there is a situation like that, tend to panic and go, I gotta get out. They're gonna go the normal way their brain says, I come in this way, I'm going out the road that leads me in and out. People panic, forget about the EVA and just start running in whatever directions. So I would be not against not even having it. I agree with you guys. We do need better planning for future projects. A bigger entrance would have been, like Commissioner Morris said, if there was just a bigger entrance in and out to begin with, none of this would be an issue. I mean, I have my children at home too. I understand a fire would be a very scary thing. Part of that would be, you plan for things and you train your children and yourself. Hey, there's a gas leak. We need to grab a coat and walk outside and calmly, exit the subdivision out onto the main street, or, what's gonna happen. I did not know that the fire departments don't even bother with those EVAs. That answered the question of mine is like, why don't they ever use them? And it is true. Their first thought is we need to go to the source of the problem and then work our way out from there. Sheltering in place makes sense. And if it is a huge calamity, say an earthquake, where are you gonna go? Where are you gonna drive to? I mean, I lived in Salinas for the big earthquake, I had to drive, I actually had to walk home about 7 miles from my work because all the lights were out. Police were running around telling you, just go home, go home. Oh, you can't drive. So my plan was, okay, I'm gonna basically walk on the side of the highway and get to my house, which was off of the highway. And then the next day, I got on my old bike and went and picked up my car. When it was safe, they said, hey, now you can go back and forth with traffic. I don't want to discount her concerns. There's no code for it. The expense on the business side of it, it's not a huge expense. That fence that he's talking about, maybe you modify the fence for wheelchairs and people who are disabled. Maybe there needs to be brakes in that fence, like they do with panic fire doors. Hey, an alarm will go off if you break it open. There's got to be other ways to do it, I think.
Okay. So, what is the consensus of the commission on this item?
I make the motion to deny the applicant's request and uphold the findings and conditions of PC Resolution 2016-11 for tentative map 2015-9 as originally adopted.
Any further discussion on that motion? Do I have a second on the motion? I'll second the motion. I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Would you like me to
Roll
do
call?
roll call? Okay. Commissioner Salmora,
Yes.
Chairperson David Huboy,
Yes.
Commissioner Jose Fernandez.
I will go with the commissioners, yes.
Thank you. Motion passes to deny the applicant's request and uphold the findings and conditions of PC Resolution 2016-11 for tentative map 2015-9 as originally adopted. Thank you very much.
And I appreciate the testimony from the applicant and also, what's her first name again? Amber or
Ms. Lindsay?
Lindsay,
Yes.
and also the fire chief. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, before we move on to item number
I'm
3.
going to make a motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you.
I haven't forgotten. Okay. It's been a little while for me since I've been up there. Okay, I trust you all had a chance to review the minutes of March 25th, 2021. Do I have a motion
Yes.
for approval?
I
Do I have a
motion to
second?
approve.
Did you second, Jose?
I second it.
Okay. I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
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 The minutes of March 25th, 2021 are approved. So,
Thank you.
okay, so are we ready to go into item number 3?
We are, Chairperson
Okay.
Huboy.
All right. My favorite topics, the Hollister General Plan update.
Speaking of planning for the future, here we go.
Before I begin, I'll say this, is that, I don't know if you've been following from the public here, the progression of the general plan update, and we're on to our 8th meeting. Will be coming up next Tuesday. We'll be going over climate change and local hazard mitigation like we're discussing tonight. And so I'm very excited about the progress we're making. We've had some really interesting discussions and coming up with some good policy, I think. So this brings us to item number 3, the Hollister General Plan Update 2040, Climate Action Plan and Sphere of Influence Amendments and Annexations Scoping Meeting. City of Hollister, the City of Hollister will prepare an EIR for the Hollister General Plan Update 2040, Climate Action Plan and Sphere of Influence Amendments and Annexations, and will hold a public meeting to receive comments on the scope of the EIR. The city also invites written comments on the scope of the EIR and alternatives that should be considered from April 9th, 2021, no later than the close of the 30-day notice of preparation review period at 5 o'clock on Monday, May 10th, 2021. Abraham, did you want to
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We
report on
appreciate it.
this?
Yeah, like
You're
you
welcome.
said, very excited about this process. We are now in the point where we're going to be doing the notice of preparation for our environmental impact report for the general plan update. As you know, the city council has adopted a contract with PlaceWorks Inc. They've been really helpful in regards to the process of the general plan update. They are the experts in general plan update. The principal of the PlaceWorks, Mr. David Early, he's actually works for the UC Davis extension in regards to the updates of the general plan. And a little bit before that, one of my colleagues and I actually took a class on that, and he was a professor of it. We have his book, and we're fortunate enough now to have him and his team lead the general plan update for the city of Hollister. And with that being said, we do have Carrie Stone from PlaceWorks, and we also have Terry McCracken and Allison Dag, who are going to be presenting this item for this evening. Ladies, are you...
We are here.
Thank you.
Amber, do you want to stop sharing your screen so Allison can put the presentation up?
We do have your presentation as the next slide.
It's ready. Okay, great.
Sorry.
Yeah,
I couldn't,
but it's
yeah. Our team will
Very
help
good.
us. Sorry, couldn't unmute.
Yeah, thanks, Amber. Okay, Allison, you're up.
Okay. Yeah, so thanks to City staff and Planning Commission and everyone else for joining tonight's scoping meeting for this project. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. My name's Allison Dagg, and I am an associate with PlaceWorks, which is an urban planning and environmental consulting firm assisting the City of Hollister with the Hollister General Plan Update 2040 and Climate Action Plan. I'll refer to that as the proposed project throughout this presentation, and the associated environmental impact report referred to as the EIR. And then as mentioned, I'm joined here today by my colleagues, Terry McCracken, who is the principal for the EIR, as well as Carrie Stone, who is the project manager for the general plan update. So the purpose of tonight's meeting on this project is to receive comments from members of the public, organizations, and interested agencies on issues that the EIR should address. Today's meeting is really just to listen to everyone here about what their concerns are, if they have any regarding the project's potential environmental impacts and the content of the EIR. So it won't necessarily be a question and answer session, but we want to gather public input so that that will help shape the direction of our EIR. Next slide, please. So this presentation will start with a project overview given by my colleague Carrie, and then I will go over the environmental impact report process, and then I'll pass things back to city staff to receive comments from meeting attendees. And next slide. And Carrie, I'll let you take over this section.
Okay, great. So next slide, please. All right, so what is a general plan? The general plan is the city's blueprint for growth and development, and it establishes the community's vision for the next 20 years, including goals and policies and actions to implement that vision. The general plan also identifies the type, intensity, and location of future development, while balancing future growth with conservation of open space and natural resources. And it also establishes the baseline environmental conditions so that the community can track progress upon implementation. And next slide. So the state requires that the general plan include the following elements. You can see the list here on the left. In addition, cities can choose to have optional elements. The existing general plans includes the optional community services and facilities element. And as part of this update, we will be adding an arts element and an economic development element. The city last updated the general plan in 2005, and it still includes relevant policy direction that will incorporate in this update of the general plan. Next slide, please. So through this project, the city hopes to achieve the following goals: engaging a broad spectrum of the community, establishing the community's vision for Hollister in 2040. And you can see the draft vision statement on hollister2040.org. We'll actually be bringing that to the Planning Commission at the end of next month for you to review. Maintaining the small town agricultural character, managing growth consistent with community goals, ensuring high quality development, supporting economic development, and responding to state mandates and general plan guidelines. Next slide. So in addition to the general plan update, we have some implementation tasks that we are also including. That includes Senate Bill 743, which requires the city to use vehicle miles traveled instead of delay-based metrics such as level of service when evaluating environmental impacts. Just to note that the city can still maintain level of service standards in the general plan. We'll also be adding a climate action plan, which will establish goals to reduce greenhouse gas emissions in the city. A local hazard mitigation plan, which is a 5-year strategy to reduce the impacts of man-made and natural hazards in Hollister. An environmental impact report, which is why we're here tonight. A municipal service review, which is a document that's required by LAFCO should the city want to amend the sphere of influence, and potentially SOI amendments and annexations, depending on what the decision makers decide to do for Hollister's future growth pattern. The next slide, please. So the planning area includes the city limits, which is kind of hard to see. It's the black line here on this map. The sphere of influence, which is this yellow line here. the urban service area, which indicates the area the city will provide water and sewer service. And then this larger purple dotted line is the planning area. And that's the area that the city is expressing that they have an interest in what happens in this area, particularly in regards to land use. Next slide. So to date, we've held 6 community workshops, 7 general plan advisory committee meetings, and we've offered 2 online surveys. And through this process, we've heard that these are some of the key issues that general plan update should address. So growth management, circulation, including expanding the travel choices people have to navigate throughout the city, economic development, including expanding local jobs and retail options in the city, maintaining the community's identity and pursuing high quality design, and increasing the variety of housing types in Hollister that are affordable to all income levels. Next slide.
Okay, so the rest of this presentation is going to go over the California Environmental Quality Act, otherwise known as CEQA, and what we will be needing to put together for the EIR in order for this project to comply with CEQA. Next slide, please. Okay, so as some of you may know, CEQA is the state's premier environmental protection and disclosure law. One of CEQA's mechanisms for analyzing a project is an EIR, and informational documents under CEQA disclose information about the effects that a project could have on the environment, but note that that is not effects that the environment would have on the project. They also identify mitigation measures that would avoid, minimize, or compensate for any impact determined to be significant, and they describe feasible alternatives to the proposed project. So CEQA does allow the incorporation of mitigation as goals, policies, and actions of the project as part of the project in order to reduce or avoid potential impacts to the environment as a result of future development, in which case the project would be self-mitigating. And then the EIR must be certified prior to project approval. And it's important to note that the information contained in a CEQA document does not approve or deny a project or a plan. Its purpose is solely to provide information regarding the project to help the decision makers. Next slide, please. So environmental review documents can be project or program level. Project level documents are used for specific construction level projects, whereas program level EIRs are appropriate when a project consists of a series of actions related to the issuance of rules, regulations, and other planning criteria. And so they therefore do not evaluate impacts of future construction level projects. And so because the Hollister General Plan Update and Climate Action Plan are long-range policy documents, we will be preparing a program level EIR. And preparing a program level EIR does allow for subsequent projects that are developed under that program to tier off of the program EIR. And this helps to streamline future environmental review procedures. Next slide, please. So this chart describes the general EIR process that is mandated by state law. The notice of preparation, or the NOP, which describes what the project is and invites input from the public or organizations and agencies on what issues should be covered in the EIR, has been completed. And during the NOP comment period is the scoping meeting, which is where we are at today. And this is intended to present the information that was contained in the NOP and obtain or share verbal comments on the EIR content. The scoping meeting tonight focuses only on input of the scope of the EIR, not on the project components. And this is only one of the opportunities for people to provide input on the EIR. Following this, we will conduct the environmental review and put together the draft EIR, and then there will be a 45-day public comment period and public hearing similar to tonight on the contents and conclusions of the draft EIR. Then we will put together the final EIR, which will include all of the comments that were made on the draft EIR, as well as responses to those comments. And then the complete EIR comes before the Planning Commission meeting for review, followed by the City Council meeting where they will consider the certification of the final EIR. Next slide, please. This slide lists all of the topics that will be evaluated in the EIR that are relevant to the proposed project. These topics come directly from Appendix G of the CEQA guidelines. And as you can see from the slide, there are 18 separate topics that will be evaluated, and therefore we anticipate the preparation of a comprehensive environmental review document. And Appendix G also contains the specific significance criteria questions that the EIR will analyze the project against in order to determine if there are any significant impacts under any of these topics. Next slide, please. So as mentioned earlier, where there are significant environmental impacts, CEQA requires the EIR to include mitigation measures in order for them to be avoided, minimized, rectified, reduced, eliminated, or compensated for. And CEQA does permit the general plan to incorporate mitigation as goals, policies, and actions as part of the project that are designed specifically to prevent significant environmental impacts. Next slide, please. As mentioned, as part of the CEQA timeline, tonight's meeting is intended to provide a brief overview of the EIR for the project and obtain comments on the content of the EIR and not on the components of the project. And so comments should therefore address technical issues that should be addressed in the draft EIR. They can suggest appropriate alternatives to evaluate in the EIR or address potential environmental impacts of the proposed project. Next slide, please. So this slide contains information which was also included in the notice of preparation on how to submit comments on the EIR, either verbally at tonight's hearing, mailed physically to the City of Hollister Development Services Department, or emailed to Abraham Prado with the City of Hollister with the appropriate subject line of Hollister GPU 2040, Climate Action Plan, and SOI EIR. And for comments shared tonight, as mentioned earlier, our goal here is really to just listen to any community members and any concerns and input regarding the content of the EIR. Next slide, please. So the next steps include the following tentative schedule. The city is currently accepting scoping comments during this 30-day period and will then conduct the environmental review through the end of the year with the goal of publishing the draft EIR early next year, followed by the final EIR in the spring, and finally general plan adoption and consideration of the final EIR certification next summer. And so this includes my portion of the presentation. So I will turn it back over to city staff, who will proceed with receiving any comments that people might have tonight.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. And with that, we'll turn it over to Abraham.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the Planning Commission. So this really was it's a requirement for the environmental impact report that we will be preparing to have a scoping meeting in front of the Planning Commission to get any potential comments that you may have. As Lindsay was indicating, we have had already 6 workshops, as you had indicated, 7 General Plan Advisory Committee meetings already. Number 8 is coming up on Tuesday. So we have gathered quite a bit of information already, and we are looking forward to coming before you in May to provide you with a summary in regards to the policy options that we are currently preparing for the general plan update. And we're hoping that in June we go before the City Council. We actually already have a special meeting set up for June 22nd with the City Council. It's going to be a study session. It's going to be all about the policy options of the general plan, and so we're excited about that. And in our reports today, we will be asking for a potential special planning commission meeting for May for us to discuss those same policy options that would be. But at this point, we can check if it's up to you and the commission to open up the public hearing, see if we have anybody in line, and if not, then we could bring it back to the commission and see if there's anything. Any comments at that point?
Thank you very much, Abraham.
Sure.
I'll open up the public hearing now at 5 minutes after 8. Do we have any speakers from the audience, from the virtual audience?
We do not have any speakers, Chairperson Huboy.
Okay, I will close the public hearing, or just do I leave it open then?
You can close it, and then we can.
I'll just reopen it. Okay, I'll close the public hearing now at 6 after 8. Any comments or questions from my fellow commissioners? No.
Oh, you guys been hard at work. Definitely appreciate yourself as well as your peers that are on the committee.
Oh, thank you.
Thank the community that's been involved, because it's our plan, not just specific individuals.
Right.
So it's great to hear. I've been keeping an eye here and there, and kind of going back and watching. It's great to hear different ideas and see what people think. So it's good. It'd be nice if it happened, quick, sooner rather than later. But it's good though that we're going through this process, and I definitely you guys are definitely gonna have your work cut out for you for a while. So you'll be busy, but we definitely appreciate everyone's, especially from the community, their input on this.
Thank you, Commissioner Mora. Yeah, I agree. I'm very thankful to be part of this committee, and I think as a body at whole and working with PlaceWorks, they're doing a fantastic job, and there's quite a bit of, like you say, quite a bit of information to go over and preparation, and I'm just hoping that, I know that from the public workshops that we are getting quite a bit of public input, but I'm just hopeful that we encourage to get the word out by whatever source to let the general public know that we are discussing a item, the Hollister General Plan, which is extreme vital importance to our future, our collective future, and like I totally agree with Sal, is that we're all stakeholders in this process. So I'm just hoping that we continue to get the word out bilingually, and continue to make progress on this. And I'll be looking forward on Tuesday to discussing some of the more specific items regarding the climate action plan and also the local mitigation plan that is on schedule for April 27th.
It is for Tuesday, April 27th. You're correct.
And
at
if
6
you're, to my message to the general public, if you want to participate, go to hollister2040.org and register for the next GPAC meeting, which is GPAC 8, scheduled for 6 o'clock on this coming Tuesday. So thank you, PlaceWorks members there. Thank you for your presentation. I guess that'll conclude item number 3.
Thank you so much,
And we'll go into
Chairperson.
new business. Is there new business tonight?
There's no new business tonight, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Any old business?
No old business tonight. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any planning? You're welcome. Planning department reports.
Yes, we do have a planning department report. My colleague Eva asked if I can address the planning commission this evening to see if we can set aside some potential date. We can see if based on our agenda, maybe we can even have this for a regular planning commission meeting of May 27th. But if it is gonna kind of a heavy agenda, we would rather just see if right now we can kind of agree to a potential special planning commission meeting of to discuss the policy options that we have been generating over the past 2 or 3 GPAC meetings. We have mainly been focusing on policy options for our general plan update, and so we would like to bring it before you and eventually to the city council as well. But we would like to have that discussion and see if potentially we were thinking of maybe, since we've been having our GPAC meetings on Tuesdays, if possibly Tuesday, May 27th, it would be Tuesday, May 25th at 6 o'clock, if that would be a potential date for you all to be available. If we get to the point where we may not have a heavy planning commission meeting next month, we can let you know and see if maybe we can keep it on that last Thursday as part of it. But as you know, even today with 2 items, we didn't get into this until 8 o'clock. So and that would be a nice. It's going to be a good presentation regarding all the policy options that have been discussed, touching on all the different subjects that were presented today, of the different land use, different elements such as land use, the economic development one that is new to our general plan now, arts, and so forth. So
And the arts element too,
The
which
arts
was our
element, too.
last topic of discussion.
right,
Yes.
right, yeah, and
That's
so
a new one.
that's actually not a required element by per state, but we actually included it as
Great.
I want to
as-
also say that we also came up with a new element, environmental justice.
right.
So,
That is another new one
Yes.
that the state requires us to look into in our EIR. That was not one when we adopted our general plan,
Right.
our current general plan back in 2005.
yeah, so we'll have three. We'll have the arts element, the economic development, and the environmental justice elements will be three that will be new, that were not covered in the 2005 general plan.
It's exciting.
All
Would-
right.
Would
It's
that time
exciting.
work potentially for all of you? If
Yeah, I think so. I just want to
Yeah.
make sure when I get to the office, check my calendar. And
okay,
And that was the Tuesday, May 27th?
May 25th. Mhm.
25th, sorry.
Yeah.
25th
At 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock.
Yeah,
May 26th.
potentially. May 25th.
Oh, 25th.
Potentially.
Okay.
And
Potentially.
we'll know maybe within the next 2 to 3 weeks if we don't have a heavy planning commission meeting for the for our regular one is going to be May 27th, Thursday, May 27th. Then we can maybe make the determination and let you know that we'll keep it at one meeting. But it would be good to know
We'll see how it goes.
if that.
Okay.
How about Paul just mentioned right now that may be a Parks and Rec night.
Oh.
And Paul's really good about attending all the different commissions, especially right now because of the high importance of the teleconference.
Mhm.
And so just in case Tuesday may not be available, would Monday work for all of you? Potentially?
Yeah,
Potentially.
for me, yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, we will let you know within the next 2 to 3 weeks if we do need this special meeting or if we can just generate it in our fourth Thursday on a regular meeting of May 27th.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any other reports from the planning department?
There are no other reports, Chairperson Huboy. Thank you so much.
That brings us to planning commission reports. Do I have any reports from my fellow commissioners? I have a report.
Go ahead.
I just want to say is that today is Earth Day. I want to wish everybody a happy Earth Day. And I, for one, concur with John Muir, is that nature is a precious gift. And acknowledging nature as a precious gift, it all behooves us to protect it and preserve it the best we can for future generations. So it's a very important day. And that concludes my Planning Commission report. So, did you want to say?
Oh, I was just gonna say something real quick in Spanish to hopefully some of our Spanish-speaking residents, encourage them to participate in the general plan update.
Great.
So, si hay residentes de Hollister que está participando, and excuse me, because my Spanish isn't the greatest, en la plan general de Hollister, muchas gracias. Si sabes gente que tiene ideas por la plan general, ojalá que puedes hablar con ellos y dile que necesitamos gente de latino para participar en este proceso, porque la ciudad de Hollister no es solamente por los gentes que solamente hablan inglés o hablan inglés muy bien, pero es la ciudad por todos los residentes. Y yo sé que hay mucha gente que no tiene la confianza para participar, pero con este plan general hay muchos gentes que te puede ayudar. Vamos a tener meetings en español. Si tienes pruebas, lo puedes hablar en su lengua y ojalá que pueden participar, porque es muy importante, porque la gente latino compran casas aquí, paga taxes y también usa escuelas, los parques y todo. So, necesitamos oír que ustedes quieren por la plan general por la ciudad de Hollister. Muchas gracias y buenas noches. It's basically just said, kind of encouraging them to especially for the Spanish-speaking residents of Hollister, to participate in the process, and that we do have Spanish speakers available, and if they have any questions, we do have people that can answer them and guide them, and just remind them that this is everyone's city. Hollister belongs to all of us, and not just English speakers or other ones. I know at times people from the Hispanic community, Spanish-speaking community, especially if English is their second language, sometimes they don't feel confident that to participate. But Hollister's different, and we encourage everybody to participate. And I just reminded them that they pay taxes here, they purchase homes, their kids go to schools. They use parks, so to encourage everybody to participate, from speaking to staff, I know it's everyone's sincere of reaching out to everybody and getting as much. So I'm just trying to encourage them to participate.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And
very
sorry
much.
if my Spanish wasn't the greatest. I tried.
I actually understood it.
Oh, great! Thank you.
I speak a little Spanish myself.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes.
Thank you,
Go
Commissioner
ahead.
Mora. That was wonderful. Thank you so much for doing that.
That's great.
You just put something in my mind right now, and I was receiving texts as you were speaking from my colleagues as well. So we're all on the same wavelength. May I please add one more report to the planning department reports?
Absolutely. Go
Thank
ahead.
you. And this
Abraham.
sparked from Commissioner Mora's statement. We are actually in our continued attempts to actually include the Spanish-speaking population. As you all know, they do have a very interested, they want to be a part of, they want to be involved. And we've seen pre-COVID, we've seen this whole auditorium filled when we had to do translation, because people care and they want to come in, and we know that everybody has a life, and we know that everybody's busy, but we are doing that reach out, and we're hoping to have a good participation on the May 6th meeting. We have a tentative meeting. It's going to be Spanish speaking only. It's going to be a workshop that we'll have. Right now we're working in collaboration with the Hollister Youth Alliance to help us spread the word, be able to provide pamphlets in Spanish through different organizations and different places. Hoping the best to not be exposed either, because it's a challenge right now with COVID. But we're hoping to have a Spanish-speaking only community workshop May 6th from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. When we hope to hear from everybody who's Spanish-speaking to be a part of it. So thank you for allowing us to give the report.
You're very, very welcome on that. Thank you for that announcement.
Can I quickly add, and I'm so sorry. I just want to make everyone aware that a survey for the local hazard mitigation plan has been posted onto hollister2040.org. If you go to the website, you'll see that it is listed under hazard plan. That's available both in English and in Spanish. And I just also wanted to inform the Planning Commission that Eva and myself did attend the youth committee meeting last Thursday, April 15th, to inform the Youth Council of what the general plan is and invited them to participate in any way that they see fit. So we just wanted to let you guys know that as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Amber.
Thank you.
Question for you. My daughters, when they were at San Benito High School, my two older ones, were
Yeah.
part of LULAC,
Yes.
and they did a lot of reaching out because a lot of the families are Spanish speaking.
Thank
I
you
don't
for
know if
that.
you guys can use that.
Thank you for that, Commissioner Fernandez. We actually did. I was very fortunate, not this past Saturday, but the Saturday before, to be able to present to the LULAC. They actually allowed us to be in their agenda, and so I had the privilege to present. Great group of people in LULAC. They have from youth members to former superintendent of schools like Max Sanchez, former teachers, current teachers, principal of the high school. It's such a great organization that does a lot for our community. And so, yes, thank you for letting us know. We did reach out to them, and they were on board. They were like, whatever we can do to help, please, reach out to us. And so, very good contact. Thank you, Mr. Fernandez. Appreciate that.
Thank you. Okay, any other contributions from the Planning Commission here on reports? Without any further reports, I entertain a motion for adjournment.
I second the motion.
Well, let me make the motion first.
Yeah,
I
make
gotta
the
tell you,
motion to adjourn
You made the
the
motion,
meeting.
and Commissioner Fernandez seconded.
Yes.
We are adjourned until the fourth Thursday of May.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you for attending.
Thank you guys for,
Appreciate it.
thank everyone online for tonight's meeting and with your reports. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul.